just give you a listing of the letters that we have, letters and emails that we have received to date. From the Friends of Barnstable Harbor, Ted Theodorus, President, and I will just do a quick summary of what was said. The proposed conversion of zoning from limited business to residential would forever diminish the rich nautical heritage of Barnstable Harbor and greatly limit its attractiveness to village residents and visitors. Victor and Margaret Mankiewicz opposed to proposed construction and supports current marine business zoning. Christine Barber opposes any changes in the marine business. Susan Danton opposed to proposed construction and supports current marine business zoning. Marilyn and Charles Fuller wants to keep it a marine business zone involved with the Barnstable Village Association and the comprehensive plan. Sarah Magruder does not want the zoning change to enable a McMansion on Barnstable Harbor, supports the current zoning. Carolyn Conrad D'Esposo, I said that wrong, opposed to any zoning changes or having the town grant any relief to existing zoning for Freezer Point. Herb and Miriam Cronish opposed to any zoning changes. Carolyn Bertrand Loomis wants to add their names to the list for the preservation of Freezer Point. John Robert Lewis supports the current marine zoning use against any variance that would allow any residential building to be built in an area already zoned for marine building. Jonathan Coblin opposed the variance. Owen Duff opposes, indicates the request has graduated from retirement home to full-fledged marina. Wayne Norwood, Barnstable Harbor and the land around it should be preserved. Sheldon Wolf, zoning should not be changed. Marion Ferg supports the marine zoning. Polly Dana Shoemaker and Bill Shoemaker supports adherence to the local comprehensive plan and that the desire of the majority of the residents of Barnstable Village is that there's no encroachment of the marine business zoning district. Whitney Wright, town of Barnstable continues to degrade and erode business opportunities around Barnstable Harbor. This should be stopped. Roy Hammer and James Henkel opposed to granting expansion of a non-conforming use or a variance to the marine usage zoning for Freezer Point. Edie Vonnegut supports the current marine zoning. Eugene Guerrera, don't change the zoning. John and Mary Louise Still opposed to changing the zoning. Barnstable Land Trust, Carol Carter, President. Barnstable's local comprehensive plan had identified Barnstable Harbor as one of the only 3 activity centers for marine business. BLT is concerned about the change of use. Once a parcel used for marine-related purposes is lost, the town would never be able to replace it. Frederick and Judith Hilton supports current zoning and use of Freezer Point. Patricia Connor supports the current zoning. David Welch supports current zoning. Robert Ambrose wants any decision to be postponed 60 days from the April 13th hearing until he can organize properly, as he's in France. This piece of land cannot be replaced and would be invaluable to Mid-Cape residents. Teresa Brosnan, against development at Freezer Point, supports the current marine zoning and use. Susan and Peter, okay, this is a good one. Aletharakis, only supports the current marine zoning. Robert Frazee supports strict enforcement and retention of the marine business zone. Member of Barnstable and West Barnstable Historic Societies. Chris and Lenny Clark. This proposed mansion on this particular parcel is inconsistent with the strategic land use planning map included in the town's local comprehensive plan. Preserve our historic culture on the north side. Letters of support.
Board tonight and say that use continued. I think it's very difficult. I don't think he's proven it. I think that's a legal issue that has to be looked at very clearly, because I don't think he's demonstrated that he has, and I think the building commissioner's decision years ago was based on the lapse prior to that date, not since that date, which is what Ann Kennedy has been saying. So the question of tolling and the cases that he's referenced, they have nothing to do with it, because the town didn't prevent him from taking care of this property. The town didn't prevent him from trying to seek an expansion of non-conforming use prior to 2006. He had plenty of time to do that. He didn't do it. All of a sudden, all the avenues had been shut off to him, and now he comes and he's talking about the continuance of the use. And I believe that's the real issue tonight, whether legally that non-conforming use continued. I don't believe it did. I don't think he submitted sufficient evidence to demonstrate that. But second, I really want to talk about Again, I represent a lot of people. Yes, they don't live there, but they're part of that community. And that's very important. And they could all stand up here tonight, and it'll take forever, and you'll stand up and say what I'm saying now, and I'm speaking for them. And every person that's on that list that I submitted to you emailed me or personally told me that they wanted to be on that list. And I've had 30 more since 2 weeks ago, which I didn't submit because I felt the case was closed in terms of submission of documents. He's the one that asked for a rescheduling. Why? Because he had our opposition, and he wanted to make some changes. I was the one that mentioned in the opposition that Mrs. Bassett didn't live there for 2 years. Well, why wouldn't they know that from the beginning? It goes to credibility. A lot of this stuff goes to credibility. So I really feel, in summation, that the issue here tonight is whether that non-conforming use lapsed. The building inspector said it did. Town council said it did. I say, representing all of these people, that it did, and I hope that you find that way, and as a result, you deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted Theodoros, Barnstable Village. I am president of the Friends of Barnstable Harbor. Thank you for confirming that our letter to you is in the record. I won't bother reading it, but I do want to make one very significant, highlight one point that exists within the letter. The planning process is a very important process to Barnstable Village. We've been involved in it now for several years. It is drawing the community together. There is a lot of interest and some vision regarding how best to integrate the business district with the harbor. A lot of great ideas are coming out. Not everyone agrees, and we don't expect that everyone will agree, but it is my belief that the local comprehensive plan and the village plan are very important documents. They are the result of a lot of hard work by a lot of people, especially the growth management department, who are participating with community discussions and leading that effort. And more importantly, these plans represent the will of the community. This is what people really want to see their village look like. Not everyone agrees, as it occurs in any community, but it is my impression that there is a lot of interest in maintaining the nautical marine character of our village, somehow connecting the business district increasingly with the marina and the harbor. And this particular plot of land is so significant that if it is allowed to become a residential property, it really separates the community from its nautical history and that very significant property. So what I would stress is that we urge continued aggressive planning in the village and establish a vision for how best to use Freezer Point. It's no secret that the town has been in negotiations with Mr. Bornstein for several years past, discussing how best to use that property for increased public access and diminishing the congestion on the east side, making it into something that looks like a park and provides some limited marine services. Maybe that is a grand vision, but I think it is something we ought to work on. So I would appreciate very much your thought about that long-range view of how we might use Freezer Point, and I would say use would really be a significant departure from the will of the community. Thank you.
Chris, at some point, I mean, you talked about the will of the community. At some point, somebody had to purchase the land. So, I mean, does the will of the community, in your opinion, or in your as you're representing, have the ability to overrule that person's purchase of the property so that they have to put a park there? And is that the best interest and use for the community? In your opinion?
Well, you know, there's growing interest in a vision of that type. I can say that certainly is my personal view. Mr. Bornstein and I have been discussing that for years, and in fact, an acquisition by the town was in agreement for a period of time, and the parties couldn't get close enough together to finalize that. But yeah, we had a plan for town ownership And
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut in here because we're